Welcome to Connecting Greeks, a streaming comedy show and podcast designed to explore and enhance Greek culture around the world. Join hosts Angelo, Adi, and Foti as they bring you fun and interesting guests from all walks of Greek life. Grab a cafedaki and join us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of Connecting Greeks podcast. It is the eve of Greek independence. This is a special time for us. We want to thank everybody out there for watching and listening. Today's episode is an amazing episode. We have a guy who I've been a fan of for a long time, and I bet you I'm going to ask him later on if what he thinks my biggest fandom comes from, and I bet you he won't get it. But anyway, I'm Ari. I'm down in DC. And I just want to introduce my co-host, Foti Stamos, up in Boston. Hello, Foti.
Ari, what's up, brother?
How are you, man?
I'm doing okay.
All right. And all the way on the other side of the country, we got the man himself, Angelo Tsarouchas. Hello, Angelo.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
How are you doing?
Good week this week. Greece's bicentennial, 200 years. And I'm very excited about our guest today's episode because we've hung out a few times in Hollywood at the LA Greek Film Festival, and we were also watching World Cup soccer because I know he's a huge soccer fan. This is one of the coolest Greeks and one of the best actors I know. He was, he was married to a Bond girl. He was in Saw. I just recently saw you in a film called Cosmic Sin with Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And I mean, the list goes on and on. We could talk about his credits all day, but let's bring him on right now. Costas Mandylor. Welcome, Costas, to Connecting Greeks.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Great.
It's a pleasure.
Costa, right now I know that you're in Portugal.
I'm in Madeira, Portugal, which is where Cristiano Ronaldo was born.
Huh.
And I've settled here for a little bit. But I just came back from Greece after about a month stay. I was shooting not a little film, but quite an interesting film with a young and up-and-coming guy called Anthimos Ananiadis. And we kind of got stuck quite a bit shooting the COVID, the snow, and locations and whatnot. So I ended up walking around Athens quite a bit by myself. And because it's very quiet, because of this, epoche of stuff, I had Athens to myself practically. So I got to know Athens and the Scalopatio of Athens really well. I walked everywhere, every day. It was great.
That's so
amazing.
Cool. Athens is such a great city.
Oh, my God.
The fact that you had it all to yourself must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. When I first got there, they put me up at the Plaza Hotel. And the staff were fantastic, but it was right next door to the Great Britannia, right? And I remember they put me on the 8th floor. For anybody that ever goes there, just get the 8th floor because there's a huge balcony outside of all the rooms, and it faces the Acropolis. And I basically had the whole floor to myself. So every night I'd go out and stare at the Acropolis I was talking to the Acropolis at times. It was such a beautiful sight. Your eyes can never get enough of it,
That's an amazing experience right there. Not many people could say they've experienced that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, for me, it was the first time because when we were young, I used to go to the islands. I used to go to the Horia and see the grandparents. This time I was kind of I had to stay put, and I was forced to just find all the little diamonds in Athens. And of course, there's a little too much graffiti for my liking because it's an old land. I don't like the graffiti, and it's a little bit of crappy graffiti. If they do artwork, it's much better. But then you turn the corner in Plaka, and you've got these beautiful homes and these historical sites that they can't touch. And I just really found so many things there that I'd never seen before. So in a way, I was lucky. Athens was a sort of an intimate thing with me and the walls,
That is awesome. Hey,
yeah.
What was the feeling in Greece? I mean, the bicentennial is, it's already happening in Greece right now as we speak.
Yeah.
Were the people feeling it? Because you were there walking around. I mean,
yeah. Well, look, a lot of people weren't on the street, but the people that I did engage with, it was building up, and there's still a lot of proud Greeks there because, there's some other stuff that goes on with politics that we won't get into because I'll end up making a lot of enemies. But I love Greece. I love its history. There's a lot of patriots. that are not extreme right wingers and all that crap. They just love their country and they love their history. And I remember there's a couple of not old timers, not much older than me, but very wise with history. And we just stood around street corners talking. And I learned even more than I did when I was a kid from my grandparents and my father and my uncles. I mean, from Kolokotronis to Diakos to Karaiskakis, and some really funny stuff too, because the Greeks back in the day had a few sayings when they were confronted with danger, and the Turks used to say, bow, get on your knees, and they'd say some things that we can't say on the air. and I learned some, I guess, you know what I mean, from the old timers. But there's so many heroes that we have that I didn't know about. And it was just fascinating to hear more stories. I actually walked one day because I was staying in an area called the Mets. Yes. And I never really knew that area. I didn't like it because it's got a lot of traffic that goes by there. But when you're on your feet and you walk around and you get into the neighborhood, it's actually one of the more upscale neighborhoods, right? Mm-hmm. And they have the first Greek cemetery, the first Athenian cemetery is at the Mets. So one day I got a coffee and I just started walking around because I was bored. And I ended up in this place. And slowly, I started finding out who was buried there. I found Melina Makuri by accident, her big agoma. Oh, and then I went one day with Anthemos, who was very close to, what's his name? Mr. Costas Vutsas. He was quite a famous actor, right? You know that guy? You've heard of him? Vutsas? Yeah. He was very well, yeah. And Anthemos was very close to him. So we were searching for his grave one day. We couldn't find it. But the next day I went by myself and I found Dionisio. I found Mitropanos and I found Mr. Vutsas in this corner of this. I mean, I'm not a fan of cemeteries. You know what I mean? I know everybody's dying to get into them, but it was fascinating because of the people that I found, and some of these burial sites were like little homes. But I'll tell you who I did find, because I started asking questions. And lo and behold, I found Kolokotronis and this beautiful statue. And I swear, when I found it, I went there and I sat with him for 3 hours. I even walked in through the gate, and it's got a great statue of him. And I held his hand, and I was just kind of talking to myself, just looking at him going, this is one of the great Greek heroes, you know? Wow. So it was fascinating to find these kind of places.
That's amazing.
That is awesome, Costas. I mean, you're just
how often do you hear about this?
No, you don't. That's like amazing.
And the fact that you were just there.
I know, yeah, it's perfect timing for this conversation.
The timing's great, and you know what's interesting about it, because like a lot of us in the diaspora, Costa, because your hometown of Melbourne, Australia, which I adopt as my second home because I love it.
Yeah, they love you down there.
It's amazing. And the thing about it is that, growing up in Canada, being from Montreal, and, yourself originally from Australia, and the boys are Americans. And I found the similarities that I think in Canada, we had the French, right? So you had the French presence in Quebec. So you became more Greek. And the thing I found about Melbourne, Australia, and most of Australia, but especially Melbourne, which has the largest population outside of Greece in the world. Right. There was such an elinismo there.
Yeah.
And, you go to Oakley and Brunswick, Lonsdale Street, and other places. And I always, I felt, aside from the accent that the Australians have or Canadians have, because we have an accent even in America. Right. You could take the folks, whether it was Pascha or a family dinner, you put the people down, and it could be anywhere. It could be Boston, Melbourne, or Montreal. Take away the accents. It's the same people.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
The same people, the same complaints. The one Theo Tikanis or Malaka. Yeah. It's the same thing. And I found, and you've done this, Costa, because you've traveled the world. You've made films all around the world. Don't you find when you meet Greeks, and this is something where when they came up with the idea to do Connecting Greeks, and the one thing I found was once you got through the barriers, we were all raised with the same kutala.
Oh, that's a perfect way of saying it. The same kutala that once in a while broke on our back when we got older. They would break, and the mother would get angry and get another one and hit you harder. Yeah, and all the parimias and all that stuff it's all passed down. That's why there's some people that go, I'm Greek, and they don't know the their history. I mean, even the way it's explained to them from the uncles and the grandparents, we have that in common. But sometimes I go, some people miss it. But we could tell the same stories. We could say the same anécdota. And it comes through, it's all passed down, which is the beauty of our language and the style we have. You know what I mean? The style of how they talk, how we talk.
Now, Costa, I got to say this to you, because you got a lot of fans in Canada, especially my cousin Kathy in Toronto.
Yes, Katerina.
And she goes to me, Costas Mandylor. And I remember he was named People's Magazine 50 most beautiful people in the world. And I think there's a lot of Greek women that want to lick you like a fudgicle in Canada. And my cousin she said to me, "Do you want football though enough thought?" So I go, "He's a good actor. What was it like with your family and stuff?" You seem like a humble guy to me, but that's a big honor to have. Like, being named 50 most beautiful people out of 1 billion.
You know what sucks about that? I remember the first one. I did it twice. And the first one was 1991 or something. And I think Mel Gibson was on the cover. And I love Mel Gibson. So I'm like, if good enough for Mel Gibson, I'm glad I'm in this issue. Then the next year they didn't call me. I said, what happened? I got ugly all of a sudden? I think it all depended on what's coming out, what's going on. But I did get it one more time. The second time I did it, I was actually in Canada and I was shooting till like 6 a.m. I'll never forget it. I think I was in Toronto. And I was frozen, bro. I finished at 6 a.m, and they had to do the pictures that day. And it was also it had a section Australian actors, and it was Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe and a couple of other people. But those assholes, they ended up doing it in a studio, looking perfect. And I went straight to the photographer at 8 a.m. Otherwise, if I slept, I would have never seen him. And he took pictures of me in an alleyway, and I looked like I was a bum.
Oh man.
But I made the issue.
You still made it.
You still made it.
That's a true Greek manga right there. That true Greek manga.
Tsenikti and straight to the work. Yeah.
Exactly. That's Greek fashion, dude. You are Greek. You worked all night. You worked all night. Okay, you had another job. You went straight to the job. No put on nothing. You got it over with, and then you went for evening.
That's one thing we have, right? We have Kurayo. We just keep going.
Just keep going, man. You just keep going. Idulia, that's when the Greeks say to you, Otenekis Dulia, you're going to go do it, man. And you don't want to leave. You don't want to leave. Okay, well, if we got to do it, we're going to do it. No complaints or nothing.
That's it. That's right, brother.
But Costas, I know you were a professional soccer player.
Well, I was a professional. I loved the game growing up, and I became a professional in Australia as much as we were back then, although things have gotten more professional as the years have gone by. But then I went to Panathinaikos in '84, and it was the year that they got to the last four in the European Cup, and they lost against Liverpool. But I was part of the 22-man squad. The professionals were 20-man squad, and Galakos was still there. But I remember they had a top team back then, and they let me in. They took care of me. They didn't keep me out of the clique, as they say. And I had one of the greatest experiences of my life. And funny enough, towards the end of the season, the great coach from Poland who coached Boniek, his name was Moch. He was the national coach of Poland. He was coaching Panathinaikos. And he called me in after Friday's training session at Paeania, where we used to get the bus twice a day. It would pick us up at Leofor Alexandros for all the Panathinaikos fans, and that would take us out to Paeania. Now we're close to where the airport is now, the international airport out in the countryside. And he called me up and he said, come to my office. And I went in there, and it was a Friday night, and he was having a few problems with some of the players because he was a very Avstiros coach, you know. Right. And a couple of the players were sort of rebelling against him towards the end of the year. And I went in there, and he said, listen, I want to talk to you on Monday. Be here early. I'm like, I'll be there. And as he was finishing talking to me, Vardaroyannis' right-hand man, I remember this gray-haired man that everybody used to panic when he used to show up. He showed up, and they said, I need to talk to Moch. And Moch said, I'll see you Monday. I left, and it looked like it was going to be a serious conversation. Monday comes, and Moch was fired.
Oh,
And I do believe he was going to invite me to preseason to be a part of the team because I really went well there. But the next year, funny enough, they got rid of him and he went to Offi and he won the title with Offi the next year. I'll never forget it. And the next year, Panathinaikos changed a lot of players. And I remember there was a goalkeeper called Patsavuras, funny name. And I think, and a couple of Australian players actually came right after me. It was Kalanzis and Christodoulou. And they ended up playing for Panathinaikos for a few years. But I missed my opportunity because Moch left. And if I knew it, I would have followed him to Offi. But funny enough, that next year I played and I got an injury, and that's how I became an actor. Wow. I couldn't run for about a year, and I went to see a friend in LA. I'd never been to. I think I'd been to LA once years before, but for a very short time. I went to see a friend. I couldn't run. I was pissed off that I couldn't play, and I was kind of at the peak of my career at like 23 years old. And I ended up going to acting classes in LA, and somebody said, "Hey, you should be an actor." I'm like, back then it was like, there was Mel Gibson and a couple of other people. And little did we know that all this talent from Canada and Australia would flourish. And now they've taken Hollywood by storm. But I guess somebody said I was one of the pioneers. And I never really thought about it that way because I was just desperate to try and do well. But it's ended up being, ups and downs, mostly due to my madness. But I'm still there, and I'm at the second phase of my career, and I still miss football. I mean, soccer, but acting lasts a little bit longer. So, I can still do it.
That's amazing. I mean, talk about somebody who's driven. And you play for my favorite team, Panathinaikos, by the way.
Thank God.
Yeah, of course. We get into it. And we never talk about the soccer. But, that's the team I go, Prasini, right?
Right.
And all the Irish think that we stole their clovers or something. I don't know what that's about, right? You guys took our clovers. I go, whatever.
I should be thankful we're respecting the clover.
Yeah. But Costas, what I'm hearing, and for people that our listeners can hear, because a lot of people ask, how do you get to a certain place in life, right? And like, you're a man who took an opportunity. You went to Greece to play for a professional soccer team. Then you go visit a friend in LA, and then you take acting classes. You find this new thing that you had inside you, this talent, and with awesome success. And then people always, I'm fascinated by, Costa, is that people always, and I get this question too, like, what's the secret? And the secret is go fucking do it. And I always tell people, and this is a great story, because if you don't take the chance and go find out for yourself, you're 23 years old, Palikari, why not? What are you going to lose? I mean, you go there and look how it turned out. So,
yeah. Well, it's funny because I think with certain things, I didn't really have any desperation about it because it was an unattainable sort of vision. Because when we were kids, we used to watch Kirk Douglas and Spartacus and Anthony Quinn. God bless him. He was my first Hollywood dad with Robert Loggia. We'll get to him afterwards. But it was just sort of, I fell into it. And you know what? I used to fight the church when I was young. I used to go there, church, what's going on. But now I've started going back to church because I think the world's so screwed up. And I'm trying to look at the messages that they give us, right? And sometimes this black preacher taught me, sometimes everything is revealed to you. You don't have to really do much. You just walk forward and try and do your best. And things come to you, and I don't mean fame. I just mean opportunities or the path or an idea comes to you. And that's what happened. I didn't go to America to become an actor. I went there to visit somebody. You know what I mean? It's like all of a sudden people are like, hey, you should do this, that. I got a commercial. All of a sudden I started making money because back then, I didn't have a work visa. I was just visiting. And slowly, it just sort of took me in. And I remember meeting Mickey Rourke, who was the biggest star in the world at the time. And, and then when I started making movies, I couldn't believe I was there. And I did my first movie called Triumph of the Spirit with Robert Loggia and Willem Dafoe about Greek Jews. It was Greek Jews. And the guy was actually there who was he was a Greek boxer. And the Germans used to make him fight in the camps against other people in the middle of the night when they were drunk. And when they'd finish, when they finished the fights, the guys were laying in the snow, beat up and bloody, and the Germans used to go back into the room and go to sleep. And funny enough, the guy told me a story when he first went there to shoot the film, to consult the film. They found one of the guys that he fought, and they went on national TV in Poland and just hugged each other and started crying because that's the only decent memory they had because everybody else was dead. So I got off track a little bit, but that was when it first began, and that was with Robert Lozier. And then after that, I met Anthony Quinn, and Robert Lozier and Anthony Quinn both called me their son, and I'll never forget it because I used to have unbelievable times. By the way, you know, I know.
Costa, can you hear us?
Yeah. Did you hear my
story? There you are.
Did my story disappear on that?
Yeah. Say it again when you met Anthony Quinn.
So they called you their son.
Right. Well, yeah, Robert Lozier and Anthony Quinn used to call me their son, and I used to hang out with them. They used to call me and say, "Where are you?" Anthony Quinn used to go, "I'm at Spago. I'm with Don Rickles and Ricardo Montalban. I want them to meet you." I'm like, "What?" I used to like glide to Spago, you know, and they used to tell stories and bust chops, and I used to just stare at them, and they go, "Why are you so quiet, kid? Say something." I'm like, "What am I going to say? I'm sitting with Don Rickles and Anthony Quinn, for God's sake." I'm not that quiet, trust me. But I used to sit with them, and they were incredible storytellers, and that's how it began for me, you know. I look back now and I go, I just wish I could go back in time once or twice, you know, to see the grandparents again, to see the old timers that are leaving us, because these people made Hollywood, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's incredible.
I got to tell you, Coach, hearing the stories from you, because it's dark where you are, so we can see your face. It gives you a mystique.
Good. I'm trying to get the mystique.
But I kind of dig it, actually. This is good. It gives you more mystery to who you are, and I love that.
We'll do it again in the light one day. But go on.
No, it's okay. No, it's cool. I like it. So Picket Fences, I remember you on Picket Fences. That was an awesome show. How did that come
dude,
out?
The Canadians like that show. I remember.
They love it in Canada. They love it. Right, yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what happened. I remember doing Mobsters, where I actually met Anthony Quinn. Believe it or not, the first day I met him. Should I tell the Anthony Quinn story? Because it's pretty cool.
Sure.
Yeah, it was I'll tell you what happened. The day I met him was the first day of the Iraq War, the Desert Storm.
Oh, wow.
I'll never forget it. Yeah, and I remember going to work, and it was my second big Hollywood movie, right? And I didn't want to be late, but I was cutting it close. Meanwhile, I've learned you get to work on time in Hollywood. You're still 2 hours early. Anyway, I got there, and it was a summer day, and all the doors were open, so I had to sort of close the doors on the trailers to see my name. So I got the first one was Christian, second one, third one. The fourth one I thought must be me. So I just ran in there and dumped my bag and said, "I've made it on time." And all of a sudden I hear behind me, "And who are you?" and I look around, and it's Anthony Quinn sitting behind me. I didn't even see him. And he looked like a gigantic, you know, like bird with his arms up on the couch sitting there. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Quinn. I was in shock. It's Zorba, you know what I mean? I'm looking at Zorba right there." And I go, "Sorry, Mr. Quinn. I thought it was my room." He goes, "Who are you playing in this movie?" I said, "Frank Costello." He goes, "I knew you as an older man," because he knew all the old gangsters. They loved him. They used to have dinner with him, you know? Anyway, I go, "Oh, my God." I didn't know what to say. And he goes, "What's your name?" I said, "Costas." He goes, "You're Greek." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I own a part of an island in Greece." And you know what that is, right? When he did the Guns of Navarone, the Greeks granted him a piece of land in Rhodes where they shot, and it's called Anthony Quinn Beach to this day. Right? And he told me, he goes, I just met him, and he's going, "Yeah, I own a piece of the island of Rhodes." And he said, "Then I'm going to get it back, because when they did the coup, the junta took it off me, but I'm going to get it back." I'm like, all right. And I didn't know what to say. And then eventually he stood up, and he walked over to me. And I said, I better get to work. And he just stared at me, and I didn't know what to do. So I just hugged him, and he went, Anyway, I found my trailer. I got the makeup on. And guess what? The next time I see him was about 2 hours later on the set. And you know what I had to do? I had to shoot him in the scene.
Cool.
It was unbelievable. And then at the end of the day, he called me because through the ADs, and he's like, "Tell Costas to come to my room. I want to see him." That's where he took my number, and he used to call me up. And at the time when I was doing Picket Fences, back to Picket Fences, I was working with his daughter-in-law, Lauren Holly. She was married to a Danny Quinn at the time, who was, you know, Anthony's son. So it's the connection. So he used to call his son to tell the daughter-in-law to tell me to go to Spago on a Friday night. And she used to get jealous Goes, why is he inviting me? I said, it's men's night. Shut up.
That's a cool story.
Wow.
Yeah, that I'll never forget it. I actually wrote an homage to him because I'll finish with the Anthony Quinn because I mean I love what a legend. What happened was about 5 years ago, I got a phone call from the agents and they said Catherine Quinn wants to talk to you. I don't know who's she. Right, because I hadn't seen Anthony Quinn for years because I didn't want to bother him. I'm an idiot. I should have bothered him because this is what happened. I called this lady and she goes, "Hi, it's Catherine Quinn." I said, "How can I help you?" She said, "Look, I'm Tony's wife." So he had one more wife and he had 2 kids at the age of like 87 or something. He was a stud. He's got about 28 kids, right?
That's right.
Right. Anyway, she's like, "Look, I just want you to know something. It's Anthony's 100th birthday testimonial. We're going to show Zorba at 20th Century Fox with Jim Giannopoulos and a few other people there that were well-to-do Greeks. And funny enough, that's where I used to shoot Picket Fences. And I'll never forget going to this party. And then they showed Zorba. It was very surreal for me. But she told me that he used to talk about me all the time. And he said, my son, Costas, my son. I'm like, I started crying at 2 p.m, tearing up, on the phone. Going, are you kidding me? What an idiot. I should have kept contact with him, but I didn't want to bug the man. Yeah. Anyway, he had moved back to Rhode Island where now he has an estate and she's continuing his legacy with art and kids and all that, up and coming artists. But I'll never forget the friendship that he gave me, the love he gave me. And what happened was I couldn't go to this particular thing. It was at what's his name? The guy that owns Budweiser. They were having Larry King and all the old timers and all the sons and everybody was gathering as a testimony to Mr. Quinn. And I told my wife, I wrote, I can't write very well, I don't consider myself a writer, but I wrote a letter about how I met him and what it was like. And it came out, I'm quite proud of it, but she read it in front of everybody at this big soiree in Hollywood somewhere in one of the big mansions. And apparently like 8 of his sons came up to my wife saying, my father loved your husband as a son. I'm like freaking out going, this guy really talked about me. You know what I mean? Wow. So it was an incredible experience to be with him, to be a part of things. And he used to share a lot of stories. Are we allowed to swear on the show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Feel free.
Okay. Let me tell you the first story you told me, and then we'll move on to Picket Fences. Ready for this? He said one time he was trying to raise money for a movie at the height of his career. And he went to Saudi Arabia to meet the king. This is in the 70s or something, right? Oh. And he flew there. And when he got there, he had a motorcade and a limousine. And they drove him to the palace. And he walked into the palace. And he was waiting for about 30 minutes. And he was getting pissed off that the king was making him wait. And there was a banquet of fruit and food there. And he's going, what is this fucking guy? You know what I mean? I know he's the king, but come on. Anyway, apparently the king came into the room. They sat down. They did the kiss, cheek to cheek kisses, and they sat down. And the king says to him, Mr. Quinn, did you fuck Sophia Loren? That was the first question out of the king's mouth. And I looked at him and I said, what did you say? He said, I didn't answer him. It was funny to hear it from him,
It costs
Yeah. Yeah.
Costa, do you think I can see that? I think Anthony Quinn saw a lot of himself in you. And I think that's why he looked at you like a son.
I guess. I mean,
really
I you know what? I can only say I'll accept that as a huge compliment. But I wish I would have talked to him a little bit more because he was such a genius performer, And we did talk about stuff, but the one thing, when I started getting a little older and I started fooling around and getting a gravelier voice and, putting on a little weight every now and then, people said I should do Zorba on stage. And I've really considered it. And if I ever get a chance, I might try it. But I wasn't really aware that it was a musical on stage. And apparently Antonio Banderas was going to do it. And then he didn't do it. And if it ever comes up, I'd consider it. But I was called by a guy, this guy called Haris Romas? Yeah.
I've heard the name, yes.
Yeah, well, he's a Greek writer, director, stage, film, etc. He called me up about 2 years ago. Unfortunately, Greece was going through all that hardship with money and referendums and all that stuff with Germany, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, listen, I'd like you to be a part of this movie. And I said, oh, send me the script. I'll take a look at it. And I opened it up, and guess what it said? The title, Zorba Lives.
Zorba Lives.
Oh,
I called him up. I said, I'm in. I'm not even going to read it. I'll just fucking hire him.
Dude, you'd be great. I can see you totally being Zorba again. Reading on this thing, because it was a huge, And I mean, before I ask you the question, could Anthony Quinn speak some Greek?
Oh yeah, he spoke a few words. I mean, I think he spoke more back in the day because he was around it, and he was very good with languages. Obviously, he speaks fluent Italian, Spanish, and he was great with accents, obviously. But he did. But I think as the years went by, he forgot a bit of the language because you got to be around it, But I mean, the Greeks. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Costa. Because the reason I'm asking is because he's Mexican-Irish background.
That's right.
And I remember one year in Canada, it was like Christougena, and I got my uncle. Anthony Quinn is Greek. He's from Pico Greece, but that's not Horiamo. I go, he's not Greek. Well, they say he's people Tamalaka.
I know.
The Greeks? It's like Marlon Brando's Italian. No, he's not.
No, he's not. Yeah, exactly. Well, they pluck the best performers. They want to keep them, But isn't it funny how the Mexican Irish and the Puerto Rican Raul Julia played two of the best Greeks on movies ever. Remember The Tempest?
Yeah, The Tempest. Oh, yeah. John Cassavetes, right?
Yeah, they were great. They were great. I think, you know what? I found out that they shot The Tempest in Mani, and I'm going to visit Mani this summer because I met a very, very, very big police officer who has a family house there. He said, you want to make a baby with your wife? Take the house. So I'm going to go visit Mani.
Mani's beautiful. My dad's from Sparti. And we go to Viros. If you're going to go with the family, Costas, you got to go to Viros, the Spilia, where the
I used to go. When I was young.
You've been there, right? You've seen it.
Yeah,
it's
incredible.
And there's a cafe close when you come out of the Viros there. There's a cafe. My wife went shopping. They made the best diples in the world. And I ate like 5 of them. And my wife goes, how many did you have? And I said 1. And the woman goes, no, he didn't. He had 5.
How can you say? How can you say no, dude? Pestopali, what did you say?
Diples.
Yeah. Sure. So you know what happened to me, bro? When I was waiting to work in Greece, because of the schedule, it kept getting delayed. And at some point in the first week, I did the Tonight Show with Gregory Aratoglu. Have you heard of him? He's got the Greek show, the Tonight Show there. Yeah. So, I mean, I went there. I waited for 4 hours to shoot the 3rd episode. And I was just waiting up all night. And then we got going. We finished about 2:30 in the morning. The next day, when I was walking around the Mets having the coffee and meat, those little takeaway places everywhere, people were handing me food for the next 3 weeks. Because I was on the show, I became a Greek star all of a sudden, overnight. And they were just feeding, and I couldn't say no. I ended up putting on about 15 pounds in 3 weeks, bro. You can't say no to Greeks.
No.
Yeah, well, I tell you, the food, incredible.
They all want to feed you.
But look at the Filotimo they have. You went on TV, and they're so proud. And that's the thing about Greeks, is that, I know I've done stand-up shows. Well, they'll bring me Hiro and Lukumades, and I'm like, and we eat it, of course, because it's always
of course.
Some of the comics are with me, and they're like, "Fuck, man, what is it about the Greeks? You go there, they bring out, and they always bring it extra, right? Because the fiaxomekati,
oh my god,
a platter, and then pizza and steaks, and
oh my god,
they just love it. That's so great that you're on television in Greece. And then you're walking around the Yitonia, and people are just handing you.
They were handing me stuff. I'm telling you, bro. And they were bringing Sipuro from the village, from wherever they were making it. They were bringing Varelli, the Krashi from the Varelli to me. I'm like, going, guys, I'm trying to work. I can't. What are you doing? Parta, data volepsis, parta.
That's awesome.
Classic.
But you see. That's why, Costa, I've said it. We've talked about this. People tell me all the time. Why? I said, you got to go to Greece once in your life. And I've told all of them, and they go, really? I go, really? I've been to Italy, Spain, everywhere. It's beautiful. Hello.
Yeah.
And not because we're Greek. Not because we're Greek. I go, you got to go to Greece once in your fucking life to understand how people live.
Yeah.
Because the Greeks have it. No matter how bad or shitty things get, we find a way to somehow enjoy it. I mean, don't get me wrong. We love the pizzeria, right?
Sure.
You know, but at the same time, like we went to Greece and you know, I brought my wife's Armenian, so she's pretty close with the Greeks. And at the same time, I took my daughter to see the village. Now they're driving me nuts every summer now, Costa. They want to go to Greece. But are we going to Greece? We're going to Greece. I'm like, holy shit. Because they went down and that's so much fun.
It's contagious, bro.
Now, Costa, let me ask you. Now, I'm not sure about this. This is what I want to ask you. Are you and your brother Louis twins?
No.
No.
You're not. But there's another brother you have.
No.
You don't have a twin brother?
No.
What the hell's Chris telling me? You have a twin brother.
That's what he said that to me today, and I'm like, he must be drinking early.
Mutual friend we love. You know, have you ever had his meatballs?
Yeah, dude, I've eaten his. I got to tell you one thing about Chris Phillip. He's got a lot of class, bro. But he knows how to have a party, man.
I fucking love that guy. Yeah. And, you know, he's been such a help because he really likes the show. And, you know, he connected me with you and a few other people. And Chris goes, you know, talk about his twin brother. I go, I didn't think he had a twin brother.
You know, he's messing with you.
Chris, you've got to stay off the juice in the daytime.
You're doing an interview, and Costas is probably thinking, more like he is. We laughed those thoughts.
Yeah, you know, just when I thought he was perfect, we found the flaw. He has a crazy imagination. We love you, Chris Phillip.
He was just messing with you, Angelo.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, because you know because I know I've never met your brother. But I got all my friends know him here, but I've never met him. And, you know, of course, big fat Greek wedding, and he plays a brother. Now, the rumor is they're doing a third one. I don't know if it's true or not. They're going to go to Greece.
I did hear something about Nia. And a couple of years ago, she was looking for me to do a read through. And I think she ended up doing that movie, the second one where she shot in the Acropolis. But I found out there is something popping up, and I'm going to try and be a part of it because I'm like, all right, enough. Louis done too. How about me? I'll play the Greek fisherman. I said me and Angela will play two Greek fishermen that take the gay guys to Mykonos on the boat.
I'll be your husband. And you tell me, look, yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's the best.
Did you get your brother into acting, or was it vice versa? Or
well, if I was to tell the truth, what happened was I went to my first acting class, which I found very interesting, and they used to do these crazy exercises that were not acting; it was reality of people looking at each other, and things happen anyway. I remember going, "Wow, this is great!" And I found out my brother was a very good boxer and a very good soccer player, and apparently he was getting into trouble, and something happened where he nearly got killed by a street gang, a bunch of people, and miraculously survived this thing. And I said, well, why don't you come and visit me? And he came to visit me, and he came to the class one day, and you just saw your innocent young brother, not innocent, but innocent in spirit. And he kind of took to the class, and it served him really well, and he ended up enjoying it, and he sort of just fell into it, and got away from the trouble in Australia and stayed.
So basically, you helped him get out of a possible bad path.
Yeah, well, that we kind of grew up on the rough side of the tracks, and my mother says, "No, you came from a good family. We know that, but we like we grew up around a little bit of the rough stuff. I mean, my uncles had nightclubs, and you know, I mean, I saw things when I was a kid. That was my great apprenticeship from 12 years of age. I used to wash dishes in the back of this nightclub that was next to one of the first discotheques in Melbourne by the water. Have you heard of Chopper Reed?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Chopper Reed and all these guys. And I could name all the gangsters, some of which are dead now, like Anfols, Gangitano, and this and that. All those guys grew up in that area. And I was 12. I used to watch everybody get bashed. And I've seen many, many things. And that's where we kind of grew up. So there was always the bad element surrounding us, even though we came from a good Greek family. So my mother doesn't complain. But there was that element there. And I actually left because when I hurt my leg playing, I couldn't play for a year. I was also working nightclub doors and stuff on the side and learning the game from some badasses. And I was either going to get into the nightclub business or do something else. And I'm glad I chose the path just to take that adventure. Yeah. But yeah, he ended up falling into it and staying around. And then all of a sudden, and I'll tell you the cool thing, when I look back at my brother, when he first started doing some commercial work, he actually did one of those commercials with John Wayne, when they insert the actual Duke.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking to the Duke in the commercial. I think it was incredible. So I worked with Anthony Quinn, and he worked with John Wayne.
That's awesome.
That was the beginning.
So, who was the? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Adi. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that you guys, you say you fell into it, but there's a talent there that you and your brother have, and a lot of people try to fall into it and they can't. So you guys definitely have something, and again, I'm a big fan from way back, and like you whatever path you took, I think you went the right direction. Yeah, exactly.
I guess as it happens. It's funny, when I first started doing it and I wanted to be good, and obviously you got to learn how to be good. Some people are very natural. Some people have to study. Some people trust themselves. Some people don't. At this point, I've kind of become fearless because, it's just about being raw and doing your homework and showing up. And I've made some mistakes, and I became a bit of a crazy guy for about 8 years. So my career stilted. And now my buddy from my first acting class, Josh Brolin, is one of the biggest stars in the world. Oh, and wow. Gerard Butler's flown. So, and I love these guys, you know what I mean? But it's just the path of life and this and that, the mistakes, the lessons. But I just remember, there's guys that I grew up with that probably would have been better actors than me, but it wasn't in them. They didn't have that thing or the belief or even the desire. But I remember when I first made it, I'm like, Jesus, you three got, you have the friends that tell the great jokes and they tell them they can build a story. I'm not that good at that. I got other guys that I listen to this day. They have the soul of an 80-year-old man when they were 22. and I'm like, you should come over. You'd make it bigger than me. And they started laughing. But you never know. Sometimes your path is chosen for you,
True. So true.
Hey, Costa, who was the more aggressor in your family? Was it your father or your mother?
My mother's a beast mode. My old man's very passive, philosophical kind of guy, great with history. My old man was actually a mathematician, but he didn't really care about it. He just wanted to be his own boss, so he drove taxis for 50 years. And he used to hang out with all the boys at the airport waiting for rides. And that's the life he chose. But he was very good at the house as far as education, as far as forcing me to speak Greek at home, because I ran away from the Greek school because the teacher was an asshole. And when I ran away, he goes, "Εντάξει, άμα δεν θες να πας εκεί, στο σπίτι θα μιλάς ελληνικά, δεν έρχεσαι από το σχολείο." And in the end, I can only thank him because I kept my language,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Costa, you hit on a really good subject. I've met a lot of people. Now, I get it's different in America because in Canada and Australia, I think we were able to maintain the Hellenism. And I know for Fortianati also being from Boston or the Northeast, but for a lot of Americans, they didn't speak Greek. They were frowned upon for speaking Greek. And I talk to a lot of them now that regret it. And they're like, I wish I would have been speaking Greek because I see you guys talking Greek. Because now when we go out, if I got a friend who's Greek and you want to talk shit about somebody,
right?
Right? Like, what are you guys saying? Oh no, we're just saying how good the food is, and everybody Greeks will laugh about that. But it's so nice now because at least conversational Greek, Costa, that you can say,
right? I love it.
We're talking shit anyway.
Yeah, you know what? I love it, but I kind of make sometimes people get excited. They go, "Yeah, man, I'm Greek. You're Greek." I'm like, "Yeah," and I start talking to them, and they don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I'm like, "So you're Greek, but you don't speak your language. I should slap your parents for not forcing you." But there were reasons why they didn't. The Greeks in Australia, my theory was that they're so far away from their motherland that they force their kids to speak. So when you walk through Oakley, back when I was a kid, South Melbourne was the Greek area in Port Melbourne, right? Albert Park, those areas by the water is where all the Greeks were. And you walk in Oakley now or South Melbourne back then or Albert Park, and you think you're in Greece. They're just speaking the native language.
True. Yeah, it's so true. If you go to Oakley, it's like you're in the Platia somewhere in Greece.
It's crazy. I mean, Oakley is like, when I was a kid, Oakley didn't exist as far as Greeks. As when I was gone, I guess a lot of people flocked out there. They sold their houses at the beach and they went and bought mansions in Oakley because it was cheaper. So that's what happened. But, I do make fun of certain people when they go, "Yas, I'm Greek. Yas, milas koloselinikos." I'm like, you know what? I should give you a smack, but I forgive you because it wasn't your fault.
Hey, Costa, there's another thing Greeks do all around the world. Greeks are the only people that talk about real estate they should have bought 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Melbourne, the guy goes, "Hellas with Mixocati." And I go there and he goes, and they do it everywhere. Johannesburg, London. Αυτό η πολυκατοικία θα το παίρναμε το 88 με τον κουμπάρο μου για 200,000. Και τώρα έχει $4 million. Με στα φάγανε οι Εβραίοι. I fucking laughing. And I laugh because everywhere is the same. I got my uncles the same. Greeks always talk about real estate they should have fucking bought.
Oh my God. Yeah, my old man said that too. Yeah, he said I was going to buy that. I'm like, oh fuck. What was I going to say? I did neglect one thing about Picket Fences. I just want to reiterate. When I did Mobsters, I got a phone call from David E. Kelly, who's one of the most prolific writers in TV history, right? Yeah. And he was making this TV show, and I'll tell you what I did. I first went to. I don't want to go off track. We'll go back to Greece, but I just wanted to. I neglected that answer. But what happened was, I get a phone call. I think it was a Saturday or Sunday afternoon from a guy called David Kelly, who then won Emmys on LA Law. That was where he first started writing. Yeah. And I went to meet him at a very famous place called The Dome. I don't know if you remember that place in LA, but that was one of the hot spots, Spago, La Dome. Anyway, I went to meet him, and it was a quiet day. We sat in the side room, and, I said, I remember going to a set once to visit Cagney and Lacey, and it was an ugly old set. And I'm like, oh, I'd hate to be here doing this shit. I'm like, little did I know that, this is what sets are. They're just like sometimes old and the world sees them as, a play area for a police station or whatever. Anyway, David Kelly invites me he wants me to do a TV show with Kathy Baker and Tom Skerritt and Fivish Finkel and Ray Walston, my favorite Martian, all these legends, right? And I turned him down. I said to him, I said, I appreciate the offer and you being interested in me, but I'm kind of scared of being on a TV show. I wanted to do The Godfather and all that, in my naivete, right? Anyway, I remember going back and my agent's going, they want to offer you like in 1991, 20 grand. I'm like, no, listen, I don't want to do it. I'm too scared to do a TV show. I want to do The Godfather. By the end of it, they went up to like 30 grand in 1991.
A lot of money.
I told my buddies this. They're like, if you don't take that job, I'm going to kill you. I mean, 30 grand to be on TV, I'm like, what?
Every week.
Yeah, every week. And what happened was I ended up finding out that Tom Skerritt and Kathy Baker accepted it, and I said, it can't be that bad. So I said yes. Like, can you imagine? I might have been collecting rubbish if I didn't do that show. It catapulted me to stardom. And he did warn me. He said, you're not going to be able to shop anymore like a normal person. And lo and behold, the first year I'd go to the supermarket and people were coming up to me, and I was like, oh shit, I'm a star. I mean, I didn't think of it that way, but that's... Yeah. People know you know what I mean? It was shocking to me to get fan mail. Anyway, that's where it began. So I just wanted to let you know.
And, I was living in Canada. Canada loved that show. I mean, it wasn't just in America; it was worldwide.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. I remember we yeah, and we used to go to the Emmys every year, and I remember Northern Exposure and NYPD were the big shows back then, and we came on the scene about 2 years after them, and then we went there as underdogs. We were sitting at the back of the auditorium, and they go, show of the year, best show, Picket Fences, and we had to run up to the front of the stage. We went on the stage. I think we won 3 Emmys, right? We kept beating these assholes, and the funny thing is, they were always at the front, right at the front, right? We were always up the back because we weren't expecting to win. And I remember getting up on the stage, and I remember what's his name, Rob Morrow, and these other people. They were staring at us with hatred. Like, who the fuck are you? I started laughing. I said, "You miserable fuckers."
The true Hollywood stories, right here.
Oh my God, bro! But it's funny, man. I mean, these people were so successful, and John Corbett, God bless him, Big Fat Greek Wedding. But everybody was so successful. In my opinion, you're a winner just being invited to the party.
What do you think? What do you think?
Costas, I gotta say, those Saw movies scared the fuck out of me.
Me too. I can't watch them, bro. I had to go to a couple of premieres. I had to close my eyes. But when we made them, we were laughing.
One night I was at a hotel, Costa, and it came on Socks. I know you were, and it's the whole. I mean, I'm like, shit. I was trying to turn it off, but I couldn't because I was so intrigued by it. But those are scary fucking movies.
Yeah,
right?
I'll tell you. Yeah, when I first got invited to do that, it was a funny story because the director was in the room, and I had managers who actually produced the film, and they wanted to invite me aboard. And they said, the director, Darren Bousman, who's become a buddy, he's like, "Have you seen the first 2?" And I said, "No." And we'd had the meeting. I was honest. I'm like, fucking, I haven't seen him. I don't want to get caught out lying, right? And the director leaves, and the manager who's producing him, Mark Berg, looks at me and goes, "Why the fuck did you say you haven't seen the movies?" I said, "Because I haven't seen him." And he goes, "You're in Hollywood, fucking lie, bro. That's how it's done." Anyway, I ended up getting to be the longest running survivor, apart from Tobin Bell. And I must tell you, the first time I went to a premiere, and it was when I really sort of took over, and I think it was Saw number 4. And we went to Vegas, and it's your mother. It's your mother.
His friend. Yeah. My mom.
Mi lascio Mandylor.
Costa, ti te l'histoire.
Can you believe? Mine will call now. Mine's going to call now. What was I going to tell you? They had a huge premiere in Vegas, right? I'll never forget this, bro. And my mother was there with a girlfriend of hers, and it was huge. And I'll never forget it was at Planet Hollywood. And we had to walk the red carpet, but the way they designed...
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Lopez, I keep calling here. Sorry.
As long as it's not your mistress, because your wife's going to watch the show. So I'm only joking, Mrs. Angelo.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
So your mom's there with her girlfriend?
Yeah, she's there. Well, yeah, what happened was we had to walk the red carpet, but the way they designed it from the room to the red carpet was like a 3-mile walk. So I had to sign like 1 million autographs on the thing. I was freaking out, going, "This is it." So it was a huge hit at this point, right? Anyway, we get there. My mother sits next to me in the theater, and the movie begins, and she's grabbing my hand. And now I've got all the fans looking at me with my mother holding my hand. I got up and I said, "Get up, go sit next to your friends on the other side," like the killer of Saws holding his mother's hand in the theater. Like... Anyway, I got rid of her, and I remember the opening scene. There was a pendulum scene where somebody kills my sister, and the movie just begins with a guy in a trap. And when the trap executes him, the crowd, it was about 3,000 people in the cinema, and they went crazy. And that's when I realized the impact of that movie. Oh, they went berserk, bro.
Yeah.
Great.
What do you find? Great. What do you find is your favorite, TV or movies?
I do believe, especially in this day and age, great TV and the world of TV changed from the CBS world to the modern thing that we can watch anything. And I just think that quality shows, quality movies, when you can get them, it's like a joy because, I mean, you're proud of being in something. Sometimes you do smaller things just to exercise. during COVID, I took a few smaller jobs just to get off the couch.
Yeah.
And, it's like just good quality is what I want. But ultimately, if you do, I always reference The Godfather as far as quality. Great comedies like Midnight Run. I mean, to be a part of anything that's just special is great. I mean, look at Big Fat Greek Wedding. Little did they know, right? But it was classy. Yeah. It was well done, and it became a huge hit. So there's all these little hidden gems that come when you least expect them. Sometimes you can read a great pilot and say this is going to be a hit show, and it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. So you just count your blessings when you get lucky and just enjoy the ride.
Costa, they shot that in Toronto. I auditioned for the brother-in-law. Remember the sister's brother, sister's husband, in the restaurant. And the casting agent, Robin Cook, says, "Look, Angela, you nailed it, but you don't look Greek enough." I go, "Hey, I'm big, I'm fat, I'm Greek. I'm 3 words in the fucking title." Can't you give me a role in this thing?
Oh my God! That's funny, man. That reminds me of me. One time, there's a commercial that came out, a casting for a commercial. I think it was Coca-Cola or something. Said, "We need a Costas Mandylor type," and I said, "Put me in for it." And they go, "No." They didn't accept
Really?
it. Yeah.
Isn't that hilarious in Hollywood? We want a Costas Mandylor type, and you show up. No, not
quite right.
I'm Costas Mandylor. We want your type. They don't even know what they want here.
Yeah, that reminds me of a funny story. I remember when I was doing Picket Fences, and everybody that watched the show knew who I was, and I used to go to Vegas every Friday and spend the weekend there. Not every Friday, but quite often. Yeah. And I'll never forget when I hit the roulette table. It's like I didn't look at anything because I enjoy roulette. I think it's a fun game. But I remember a couple of times I got stopped when I was walking through the casino, and there'd be like families going, "Hey, you look like you remind me," and then I'd wait. I'm not going to say, yes, I'm Costas Mandylor because I'm not that pretentious, but I'd be like, maybe they're mistaking me for somebody else. And at the end, when they couldn't work it out, they were asking me, like, well, what have you done? I said, "I'm Picket Fences. My name's Costas." And they're like, no, it's not. No, and they'd walk off. They wouldn't believe me. So I gave up. I swear to God, they just leave me standing there after me waiting for 30 minutes for them to work it out, because I didn't want to be a pretentious asshole and say my name. And then when I'd say who I am, they'd go, "Nah, no, you're not." They'd walk off.
This is, Costa, this has been hilarious and informative. And we've gone over an hour now, and we don't want to keep you too long because I know you're
Can I ask one?
Yeah, go ahead.
One geeky fan question.
Yep.
You're in the Doors movie, which when I was in high school, that was like the movie for me. And like, was that a cool experience? I mean, for me, I was like, a Greek guy was in this. This is like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll share that story. We'll finish about Greece because tomorrow's a big day for us, right? Yes, ready? I'll never forget. I got invited to read for this part, the Italian count who actually existed, who gave Meg Ryan's character heroin and was one of these socialite fucking Italian count. Whether he was a real count or not, I don't know, but I guess he was. Anyway, I had the sides. It wasn't a lot of dialogue, and I had to go there. And I met Oliver Stone, who's a very tough guy, but also very lovable, and he surprises you. Anyway, he walked me through the office, and he said, "Come in," and he said, "Okay, we're going to do the part. I'm going to play Jim Morrison. We're going to get my casting lady," and she became a pretty big casting woman. I can't remember her name right now. I think it was Deborah something. But what happened was he goes, "Okay, you're going to be having sex on the floor, and I'm going to walk in on you." So he goes, "Okay." She lays on the ground, and he goes, "Lay on top of her, and I'll knock on the door, and I'll walk in." I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" I'm like, I'm studying Shakespeare to do this shit. Anyway, I'm on top of her, and he knocks on the door and comes in as Jim Morrison. And I'm sleeping with his girlfriend, right? Or it looks like we're simulating sexual positions. And I turn around and I thought it was so fucking ridiculous. I just smiled. And he goes, "Oh my God, that's brilliant. You got the part." That's how I got that part. Because I thought it was so fucking crazy. Anyway, he goes, "Get up, you got the part." And he walked me through the office and introduced me to the whole staff. And I'll never forget it, bro. And I don't really talk about money, but it's so long ago, it doesn't matter. That was before I got the Mobsters part, I think. But nevertheless, I worked for 4 days, It might have been after, I can't remember, but it was very early on, right? I worked for 4 days. He flew me to New York. We stayed at the Mayflower Hotel, which was a cool place to stay. We shot in L.A. I met Val Kilmer and everybody, and Michael, a bunch of Michael Madsen. Everybody was there. Everybody was kind of beginning their careers then, except for Meg Ryan and Val. Anyway, I'll just never forget it, bro. I got paid the shitload of money to just pretend to be a fucking drug addict and a drunk in this movie, and it was so incredible. I used to call my friends and go, "You wouldn't believe what I'm doing," and a lot of my friends are famous kickboxers, Stan the Man Longanides and Oscar Petrides and Sam Greco and all these guys, and they used to say, "When we see you, we're gonna punch the shit out of you," because they were so jealous that I was getting paid to play act on the screen. Awesome. Yeah, that was part of the beginning. By the way, I got to tell you this, guys. I was in Greece and I exchanged stories with many men with a lot of wisdom in our history. And the day I left, just a couple of days before I left, 2 of these guys, special dudes, right? Pretty dangerous guys. They brought me this book of 1821, and it's in Greek and in English. And every page has a story about one of our heroes and battles. And I've got it on my thing, on my desk. I'll send you a picture, Angie. It's an unbelievable, huge coffee table book. But I just tell you this. We were slaves. We got beheaded. We got raped. We got attacked by Persia. We got attacked by the Turks. The Greece has never given up, and I'm very proud to be a Greek because of those reasons. And you know what? We don't bitch about this slavery and what was done to us, but we never forget. And I'm very proud of the spirit that our people have. And and I hope the politicians that have taken over now protect Greece, which they have. I wanted to say this to you. They've lifted all the restrictions. Businesses are opening. Hollywood's going there. They're giving 40% rebates. People are going there. Liam Neeson's going to shoot a big movie there. Chris Phillip is bringing Alexander the Great as a TV series to Greece. Yeah. The Greeks are going to go to work, bro. There's people like Anthony Hickox that are going to shoot there, Razorhead. I mean, I got to tell you this. I always used to say, why Romania and why Bulgaria? Why do they have studios? Well, guess what? We're going to have studios there, and we have the best climate. I'm telling you, if people are going to – I love Romanians and I love Romania. Yeah. I love Bulgarians. I love Bulgaria. But I'll tell you this. People are going to flock to shoot in Greece because we've got the best climate, bro. Yeah. I was in Romania 2 weeks before Greece. I froze to death. I went to Greece. We did get snow eventually, the 4th big snowstorm in 28 years. But in essence, it's such a beautiful place to go to, and it's going to become alive again. And you know what? Ever since the last regime got kicked out of office, those bums that were robbing Greece. Now they've opened up the Latsis family and their investors to fix the old airport. And after 17 and a half years of it just sitting there like a dump of cement, they're going to make it like the Greek. Father's going to be the Greek Riviera, bro. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have cinemas, they're gonna have casinos, they're gonna have apartment buildings in this beautiful space that was just sitting there wasting away. So I'm very proud of the new government. You know, nobody's perfect, but at least they're good. Yeah, man, he's bringing fucking business to Greece. Are you kidding me?
They're doing business, and that great, Costa. Greeks love business. And they're opening it up. And why shouldn't they go shoot in Greece? I agree 100%. 100%.
Exactly. And you know what? And I love Nia because she's one of the pioneers that actually got to shoot in the Acropolis. And I'm going to kiss her ass just a little bit more right now because I want to be in my big wedding 3 with you. I'll tell her. Just 2 guys. That's the 2 guys that take the boats, take the gay guys to Mykonos, to the Super Paradise Beach. And it's not quite sure if we're lovers or not. We'll have to work that out.
Yeah. If you're listening, you got to put Costas and me. You got to give us a little taste.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah.
Before we let you go, because Forti does a little Q&A with you at the end of it. I just want to say, brother, thank you so much for doing this today. This was an amazing interview. And you're an interesting guy. You got amazing stories, and you're a proud Greek. I feel your sentiment, and I just want to say thank you again. And on the eve of 25 Martio, the bicentennial of our forefathers and what they fought for, we couldn't have had a better guest. So thank you from me, and I'm going to pass you on the Forti now. and then Adi will take it home. So thanks a lot.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it, Costas. I hope
it wasn't boring, but I did my best.
Oh, hell no. It was
no.
awesome. Dude,
This
what are
was
you
like
talking
one of the
about?
most captivating interviews we've done.
This was great.
That's fantastic, bro.
This was
I'm
great.
trying. Hey, let's give the movie a plug. I did a movie called The Cliffs of Freedom. And
Yes.
I think they're going to start streaming it.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to start streaming it. So I hope the Greeks get to see it because it wasn't released, but now it's going to come to people's homes. But I went to a premiere in London, and I had an old Greek man there. I'm not an old, I don't want to call him old, but a very wise man. And a lot of Greeks from all over came. People got up on their chairs. People cried, and they screamed at the end. It's quite a poetic, strong female lead based on Bubulina, let's say, the tragedies and the ups and downs of the Greeks and the Turks, and with a sympathetic Turk that's taught by a Greek teacher who's Christopher Plummer. So I hope people get to see it. And I'll just tell you this, in Canada and Australia and South Africa and in America, if this was released, the theaters would be packed.
100%.
Absolutely.
I know they're putting it, plus they're streaming it free tomorrow. All
Great.
the platforms are streaming Cliffs of Freedom. There's a whole bunch of platforms on social media and on Facebook and all those things. So if people who are watching this, you can watch Costas and Cliffs of Freedom. And I may tune in to see it because I didn't get a chance to watch it. So it's
a beautiful film. It'll touch you.
Right.
Awesome. Well, Costa, this has been an honor for us and a pleasure to have someone that we've always looked up to, as Greek Americans, as Ari has mentioned. But we want to ask you some very simple questions just so that our audience could get to know Costa a little more as a Greek. Can you tell us, Costa, your favorite and least favorite Greek food growing up as a kid?
I used to hate feta cheese when I was a kid. I hated it. Really? I hated it. But you know what? It's my favorite thing to eat now.
That's so funny.
I really hated it when I hated the smell. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like Vegemite. Couldn't stand it. But feta cheese now is like number one on my list. It's incredible and it's good for you. What was I going to say? What else? There's nothing like a good old souvlaki when they make them in Greece with the little round souvlaki, the little one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's so many things. Look, aspri super, I've become an expert at it. I used to take it for granted when my mother made it, and then one day I sat down 30 years later and said, "Show me how to make it." Yeah. And now I make it for people, and they go, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's the shit, man."
Right. It's amazing how we come back around to dishes as we get older that we didn't really care for, but then we wish we knew how to make it. But awesome. And then next question for you, Costa. As a kid growing up, or as Greek Americans, Greek Australians, Greek Canadians, our parents, our grandparents always had clever sayings to us. Is there anything you can share with us as any sayings that you grew up with that really stuck with you from your parents?
Or mean sayings. Or mean.
But any, I always remember this. I always bring this to the show. Every time I left the house, because our parents are pupas, kikanis. But when I left the house, my mom would always used to say, "Ta matya su dekatesera," right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure we've all heard plenty of stuff, and we like to as Angels has mentioned, we all come from the same kutala. But anything that maybe you can share with us that your parents or your mom and dad used to always drill into your head before you left the house?
Oh my God! Well, that was one of the main ones. But by the way, that scene in My Big Fat Greek Wedding with Ekotria Archidia, my brother gets the credit for sharing that in the movie. He told him about the story, but I'm the one that created that because my friends used to come over that were half English and half Cypriot, and they didn't speak Greek properly. And then every now and then we'd tell him to say something stupid to my mother, and she knew it was us, so she'd come up and whack me in the back of the head. But my brother put it in the movie, so I've got to give him credit for that.
That's cool.
But what was I going to say? Look, there's so many, and I'm a little bit brain dead. I want to do this again with you in the next couple of months, but
sure,
and I'll come up with some good ones. But I just remember, the old man used to say, "Δεν έχεις δει τι κολοτρυπίδο σου ακόμα γι' αυτό μιλάς, δεν ξέρεις τι λες."
I'm going to use that.
Yeah. You've never seen your asshole. That's why you're talking shit. You don't know what you're talking about. But
that's awesome.
I mean, there's so many good ones. But The one thing that I learned once, and I became a show off, was for fun. They said, "How's your Greek?" And I used to say, "How about this one? Όταν θέλω, εσύ δεν θέλεις. Τώρα που δεν θέλω, θέλεις. Τώρα και εγώ δεν θέλω για να θέλεις όταν θέλω."
Whoa.
Pretty good.
I learned that when I was 14. I was so proud of myself. I'm surprised I still remember
That's
it.
good.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the fact
By the
that
way, you know what? So this is not just a family show. We can actually swear, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's
Well,
adult. Yeah.
The other day when I was leaving Greece, there's 2 days before I left. By the way, I used to walk around the Kalimarmaro, the Olympic Stadium, and I found out that you can go around the back up the stairs, and there's a gate. The Greeks have bent the bars, and they go in there and they train above, looking down at the stadium. Not in. There's a park behind it with Monozigo and all that, and there's a bunch of people walking their dogs. And I found this spot right near the Met, so I used to go do the steps up there and pretend I was in the Olympics 100 years ago in my mind, right? But I'll never forget that one guy told me a story about Karaiskaki, and I found his statue that's right there in that area at the park. I wasn't even looking for it. I knew where Kolokotronis is because he's near Kolonaki. But right. I ended up finding the statue, and I'll send it to. I whispered the saying that Karaiskaki said to the Turks, to Ali Pasha, who said, "Get on your knees and bow and give up." And apparently Karaiskaki said something. Well, there's 2 things that were said. Roti to butsumu ke itohi, and the other one is apάνω σε αυτό το βράχο στο μπούτσο μου σας γράφω.
Yeah.
Bravo.
You know what I mean?
Bravo.
By the way, these guys were being faced with death, and they came up with this, my guess. I know it's a little bit rude for the old timers, but you know what? All the old timers are the ones that told us this shit, so they can handle it.
Exactly.
Pass it on.
Yeah. By the way, you know, I'll mention some names, and if you got any more questions, because I want to answer.
Yeah, one last one. One last one, Costa. You know, as you know, in our Greek culture, you know, we've grown up with a lot of superstition. It's been around us forever. Is there any superstition that you still live by as a Greek?
Oh boy, you know, to be honest, I've got to think about those 2 questions, because the parimias, there's so many of them. My man used to give them to me every day, and superstition.
If you had some time, you could probably come up with a lot of them. Sometimes we hit you, and it's like,
I know.
Right.
Well, it's like when somebody tells one joke, all of a sudden 50 jokes come to your head. But let me tell you, there was plenty of them. There was plenty of them growing up. I mean, some of them against Greeks, some of them not against Greeks, some of them against bad people. You know, because we have good and bad, and when Greeks are good, they're the best. But when there's Iliadidis, you know, I do believe in the evil eye. My brother used to get it a lot. My brother used to get it when he was a kid, and I used to say, "What the fuck's wrong with him?" You know, because he was a very cute-looking kid. In it. Yes. And my aunts used to do the prayer with the oil and everything, and he came out of a cut twice. I thought he was going to die, bro. Broke out into a cold sweat, and he was normal again.
Wow.
And I saw it in front of my eyes.
I've heard that many times from a lot of Greeks.
Yeah. My brother got it a lot. I don't think I really got it because you know, I had a big nose or something. But he was like a perfect looking little kid. And for some reason, when we were in the village once, in you know, my father's from Tripoli and my mother's from Kalamata, but we were in the village, and I was watching my grandparents and my mother, and some woman came from the village and did the prayer, and my brother looked like he was going to die. I was just fucking staring at him. I think I was 14 and he was like 9 or something, right? Oh, and I'm looking at him, and he broke out of it and back to normal within a minute after the prayer and the oil and everything. So I believe in a lot of the stuff. Yeah. But I'll tell you what else I believe in, my friends. Yeah. Kolokotronis, Thanasios Diakos, Karaiskakis, and many, many more.
Yes.
Babaflesos.
Yes.
Bravo. That is awesome. Good names to go out of this one on, Costas. Very good names.
Angelo, we got to get Costa back.
He's coming back for sure. He's coming back for sure. 100%.
I didn't get like 1/100th of the questions I want to ask you. Like I'm a true geek when it comes to a lot of the stuff that you've been part of, and like, you know, I'm fascinated. And you are an amazing interview. You said somewhere you said you weren't like much of a storyteller. Like your stories were
beyond.
Unbelievable. Like, you captivated all of us, and you're going to captivate everybody who's watching and listening. And we want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's late over there. I know you're traveling, you're doing stuff. Thank you so much for being with us, Costa. We appreciate it. And you have to come back. Please promise us you will.
As soon as you're ready, let me know, and I'll do it in the light with a little bit fresher. And by the way, does this go out live or does it go out another day?
No, we're gonna post it. It's gonna be a video and a podcast, and it'll probably be live tomorrow at some point. But you know what? We're gonna email you when it is, so you could check it out yourself.
Okay, and let me know how it goes, guys. If it goes well, I'd love to hear. All I can tell you is this: when I go to Greece and I get off the plane, I kiss the cement, and I want all of you out there, whatever country you're in, our land is still standing, our flag is flying high. And stop all the shenanigans about being a proud Greek, that you're a right winger and all that shit. You know what? People suffered for us to live free lives, bro. People suffered. All right?
100%.
All right.
Never
100%.
forget them. Exactly.
100%, man. You're preaching to the choir. We're all important in that one, man.
I got you. To all the Aussies, all the Canadians, and all the Americans, and the South Africans everywhere. Η Ελλάδα ποτέ δεν πεθαίνει. Σας αγαπώ.
Σας αγαπάμε, Κώστα.
Να σε καλά. Right on, brother.
Να σε καλά και ζήτω Ελλάς.
Thank you.
That's right, man. Z. I wish you well.
All right.
Κώστας. Να σε καλά, Κώστα.
Hey, by the way, Ange, call Chris Phillip and tell him I did good and I never said nothing bad about it.
I will. I'll tell Chris.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Costa again. Once again, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to our co-host, Foti. Angelo, you're the man, Angelo. Thanks, everybody out there, for watching, listening. This episode is going to be live tomorrow, everywhere podcasts can be heard, on YouTube, streaming, on the app. We're going to give Costa all the information. We're going to make some really cool promos because I'm going to use some of your IMDb photos and all.
Yeah, use good pictures, will you? Not when I'm drinking.
Costa,
hey,
go ahead.
Can I close out? I'll let you have the last word. Let me just say this. It's one of my favorite sayings. I watched a movie when I was a kid, and it was very dramatic. Did you ever see a movie called Agapi Kema?
No,
I never saw it.
It was a really, really cool movie when we were kids, but like a dramatic, really Greek drama film. Yeah. And all I want to say to the Greeks is Agapi Kema.
Well said.
Beautiful.
Ελευθερία ή θάνατος.
Ελευθερία ή θάνατος. Bravo.
All right. Stay tuned. We're going to have Costa back for sure. He was an awesome guest. It was a great pleasure having you. And Costa, thanks once more. Everybody, good night, guys. And thank you.
You guys got a lot of class. Love you guys. Looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much.
Big love. Γεια σας, παιδιά. Γεια σας, παλικάρια.
Zito.
Bye-bye.
Z.